What's good, everyone? This is the All Facts Podcast here. I'm your host, Haris Vikar, and today we are having another episode. And spoiler alert, this is actually a new series where I call Muslim professionals from different fields of work and we discuss their faith integrated into their business, how their faith guided towards their principles, or how their faith guided towards the work that they're currently in. So I have my friend Noman Pasha here, and Noman, you're actually the first person for this series, the first ever guest. So take care to introduce yourself, and
Oh, that's
yeah,
amazing.
tell me how the honor.
Assalamu alaikum first. I hope everything is well. Thank you so much for having me on. Brief introduction. I'm a fifth year student at the University of Guelph right now pursuing an accounting degree, but on the side, I have a podcast as well as a business, and that's been the main focus right now with school. And yeah, I've been navigating through life through, like you mentioned, like kind of with faith and with everything itself and what's going on. So I think it's the perfect time to have a conversation like this.
Yeah, so I'll give Noman, I'll give a brief background about yourself. So he's the founder of Pashanite Marketing. He's also an ex-Deloitte co-op student, and also, like you said, he's pursuing his CPA as he's almost done his bachelor's degree. It must have been tough, right?
It was definitely a challenge, I can't lie. It was definitely a long road, but I'm at the finish line. So inshallah, another couple months, and then we're off to the races when it comes to pursuing the actual CPA test. So, it's only time.
Inshallah, yes.
Inshallah.
Yeah, so now here I'm gonna ask you a series of questions about throughout your entire life journey and your profession itself. And so for the first thing I would just like to ask you is just share some of your experiences of for trying to become a CPA or what inspired you to pursue this path.
So when I was really young, I was always like really like into like money and into numbers and things like that. And I knew that I didn't want to do a traditional like engineering or doctoral because my dad was a doctor and he was always very like the kids have to be doctors, the kids have to be doctors. Like that's the
Yeah.
way it was to go, right? So that was
Yeah,
kind of what we had growing up.
typical like
The South
parents,
Asian
yeah.
growing up, it's like
The
what
South
your
Asian
three
growing up.
things. And it wasn't that like commerce or like business was looked down upon. It was more like, yo, let's go through the sciences. Like you have the brains for it, use that. But that was never my thing, right? And I was always very into like sales and into like talking, and that was like my main forte. So I told myself if I was to pursue a business degree, because it wasn't going to be any like I wasn't going to do physics, but if I was to do like a business degree, I wanted to be something that has a lot of value to it, right? And there's a whole I like to like, think if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. So I picked a hard degree. I was like, you know what? Let's be a CPA. These guys are crazy. These guys are like they're the backbone of every company. Everything falls upon them. So I was like, if I want to learn how to run a business, if I ever want to own a business at the end of the day, I would either need to hire a CPA or need to know the knowledge of it. Regardless if I am a CPA or not, I still need to understand accounting. So I told myself, let's go through towards this. This has the most like it. Even if I don't want to do business, the biggest like opportunity. So I knew this was like the way to go. So that's why we started on that.
Yeah, so did that drive like kind of help you get that Deloitte internship and then
Yeah.
eventually what did you learn alongside that journey as well? Just going
Yeah.
through
So.
your co-ops and going through your different experiences, right? Because
Mhm.
accounting is very broad because as in there's forensics, there's tax,
Yeah.
there's also I actually realized like figured this out like actually a couple of days ago. There's also accounting in just specific like real estate information. And I was
Yeah.
just kind of thinking like, oh, especially for you, you're from someone that's studied all this. So yeah, tell me more about the individual experiences that you came through along the way.
So I will start this off with my first co-op and kind of like where it was and how I got it and things like that, and then kind of branch off towards how I
Yeah,
got
yeah.
into Deloitte. So I think one of the main things people really don't look enough or put stress enough on is like how they say soft skills, but like what does that really mean and how do you show employers that you can actually have those skills? I think that was the main thing I first tackled when I was younger and why I actually got the interview. Because if I was to be honest, like when you hear the big four, you're like, oh my God, that's such a crazy company. It's really big. It's really big.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's you need to be this like a smart person. And the thing is, I was none of those things, right? My average was not high. I think I was like sub 80 or maybe just on the dot. Like it was really low because I was really lost in the first little few years of school. I kind of knew like, you know what, maybe get into this degree. I don't know if I want to continue it or not. Like, let me just go into it for the sake of going into it. But then what really changed was I realized that we already have this stigma around accountants that we're not that proficient in speaking, we're kind of boring and all these things. So now the way you can actually look different in this work environment is the fact that you actually have those type of skills. You're not boring to
Yeah.
talk to. You can hold a conversation. And I think what really guided my expertise, you can almost say, during my interview, it was the fact that one, it was like kind of easy to talk to, but also my broad experience. So I have experience as a sales associate at like retail
Yeah.
stores. I had tax experience, but it was also not just tax itself. I was doing like a business development role. So I would talk to clients a
Yeah.
lot. I would, network and really get a like, gauge them. And see that right there was me developing those soft skills. And what happened was during this interview process and just talking in general, a lot of the questions they asked, they really liked my answers because it was just me talking off the dome. Like I really don't believe in like having ChatGPT on the side to answer your interview questions for behavioral stuff because I think that's one of those things where it's like just don't be an idiot. Like like know what you're doing in
Yeah.
that aspect because I get it technical stuff you can always learn through it out, right? But with behavioral, I feel like that's something that you should genuinely know how to answer because those questions are designed to make you anticipate what's actually going to happen, right? And you will have all
Yes.
these challenges throughout life. So that's why I would say, like, if you're young and like you have the time, go work in a randomest thing possible, random job. If you want to do sales, go sales. If you're an accounting guy and you want to do sales, do it. If you want to do a marketing role, do it. If you want to work construction, do it. I've leveraged my experience in construction within my business, within Deloitte, like to say like just opening doors and be like, I've worked in this area. I know what it's like to conversate with certain type of people. And at the end of the day, with business, with school, whatever it is, it's people with people, right? People helping people, people
Yes.
working for people. When you can understand and see the philosophy behind the person and understanding people, that itself just opens a gateway to so many more things. And I think that's what really helped me differentiate myself during the interview process because I'm telling you, all of them, bro, I remember I was talking to them, like the pool of interviewees, sorry, and they're all like, my average is this much. I had this experience before. I did this before. And I was like, bro, like I don't know if I can make it. I was really scared. But God's grace for like I did it. Alhamdulillah, and like, I can't complain.
Yeah, actually, just kind of listening to that was a bit inspiring, especially as a student myself. And if you're a student listening to this, I think what the biggest takeaway Noman's really saying is really you just gotta have that grit. You just gotta have that grit
Mhm.
and just take any experience and take value out of any experience you get. Whatever you're working in retail or whatever you're working in accounting or you're trying to build skills, just have that grit and just have that mentality that no matter what skills you kind of are trying to pursue, that can help you in the long term. That and you never know what these skills can actually entail, especially when I don't know from when I'm applying jobs and everything, they a big thing they want is to see how diverse your skill set is. How they want to see if you're able to work on cross-functional teams. And I feel that especially with what you're talking about now, this really all really makes sense. And that's from one and you're saying that was a big success for you, why you went into doing all these great co-ops. So actually, now the next question I have. So now on the topic of cross-functional teams. So Passionate Marketing is,
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's more of a marketing to style. It's not really accounting, right?
Yeah.
So I would
Got
say,
it.
what was the biggest problem you kind of want to solve with Passionate Marketing? What kind of motivated you or inspired you to really initiate that business, and what made you think that okay, I should be the one to work on this?
So firstly, I always wanted to like run a business or own something where
Yeah.
I start things from the ground up. I just think it's cool. More than
No,
anything,
obviously.
like it's just like the process of it was like inspiring to myself, but I was like, it's kind of cool. It's like a baby almost. Like you're growing it from the start, you're doing all these cool things, you're going through all these challenges, and you look up to all these people who have done that thing, like say Alex or Mosey, or it may be someone in your family or whoever it may be, and these
Yeah,
guys are all like big
100%.
time people, right? And this is how they started, and I think it was really cool. Generally, I always believe in like if you don't think the work that you're doing is cool or fun or engaging or you're somewhat interested in it, then it's like, what's the point in doing it, right? And when I
Yeah.
told myself I want to start a business, I was very confused on what I wanted to do. Like in that aspect, I remember my choices were either get into like a sales job where I can learn sales or start a business, right? Which was like, I don't know why that was a two, but that was a two for me because I wanted experience in both. And my friend told me, my friend, he's a CEO imam. He goes, you will never work harder or sell harder in any other place than your own business. And that's the bottom line,
Yeah.
right? If you're working for someone else, you'll do good. He's like, yo, I don't doubt that you'll be a great salesman, but the type of hustle you would put in your own company, no one else can match, and you can never match that same type of hustle in another company. So he's like, you really inspired me to really like that line. I always keep telling myself that because no one's gonna work harder than me. But at the same time, it's there's so much growth in it because it's not just marketing, right? Like, yeah, that's a service. However, there's the actual marketing for their own brand, there's the account side, there's the service delivery side, there's the sales side, and there's all these different intricate sections in the business that I had to learn. And more than anything,
Yeah.
I always keep trying to challenge myself to grow. Like you're doing right now with this podcast, you challenge yourself. Like I want to start reaching out to people. I want to start networking and having these interviews. That was another thing I told myself is I want to have the challenge, right? The only way you can grow is through challenges. So I told myself that like this is a big thing and I do want to work in it and I do want to have that grit. I want to like you said grit. I want to show my like more than anyone I want to show myself and prove to myself that I have that. Right? And regardless of what everyone would say or regardless even if they're supportive or not supportive, like this is what I'm going to do. So I told myself like this is what's going to be it. So that was kind of like the main passion behind it. And I chose marketing because it was always like a field where there's no right answer. And if it sometimes the weirdest things work, right? So like you've seen different types of ads go
Yes.
viral or things like that. So I was like, there's that wow factor. So I told myself like, yo, I really want to get into that niche to honestly expand my like, knowledge I had right now. Because yes, I already had the accounting side. I was decent with numbers, data analytics. Like I learned that on the job, but now I want to learn something else. What do I not know that's like so crazy? I want to be in front of clients. I want to think with my head and like really imagine and envision things. That's what inspired me to marketing itself. So that's why I was like, you know what? I want to do this. So that was kind of the story.
Yeah, no, it's when I know a lot of people that do business, myself have one as well, right? A lot of the times when people before they initially started, they'll think it's, oh, maybe it's too difficult, or oh, maybe this thing I won't work. Uh, One thing I kind of really tell people, especially you can probably agree with this too. You need to kind of necessarily know who you are as a person before you really start the business. Because when you kind of get through that process, you kind of realize that the flaws that you have, eventually the business will have those kind of flaws. Like if you didn't
Oh,
work as
you're right.
hard, you
Yeah.
can kind of see your business won't really do great if you're not working hard. If you don't focus your energy on the right things, then what's going to happen? Your business isn't going to it isn't going to, you're not going to achieve the goals that you really initially wanted to, right?
No, 100%. I think that's a really nice way to put it. With yeah, I would
Yeah.
definitely agree with that.
Another thing I get from what you're mentioning, it isn't necessarily you have to be such an expert. It's if you want to you learn how to build a skill, it's not going to be easy, yes, but maybe if you understand, if you just start the business and then eventually you can probably build the skill the more you learn when you're in actually doing it. So that was just a great
100%. I
that was
think
just a
what
great
I
answer you
also
got right there.
thank you. What I also saw was yo, like you see all these people, like even like say the online gurus or whatever. Like you see all these people, I made 10K a month, or I made this much money a month, and this is what I'm doing with my life, and this is what I'm doing. And you look at the people, and sometimes they openly say themselves like they're not smart. They're really not. They
Yeah,
just did it for longer, and they did it, and they just tried harder. And that's the only difference between the people who are on top and people who are not. They from all these, because you see, like you and I both know, like bro, we're doing these interviews, and you talk to all these people. You're networking with so many great people, and the main thing is like they started off pretty stupid. Like they didn't think too much. They kind of just
yeah.
acted. And I think that's the main takeaway that I believe in is that it's the action that really alleviates all everything else. It's the action that kind of like alleviates everything else, right? And it's the action that separates you from where you want to be and where you are now. And I keep telling myself like, bro, like if so and so can do it, like so can I. Like no way he's doing it. And you can like, just tell like maybe they're not the and they openly say like I didn't know what I was doing when I started, but the only thing
Yeah.
that was different between me and you is that I started, right? And
You
that's I
started
think
and you kept and you never gave up. Like you were
right, yeah.
determined to actually continue it on, right?
And it's an up and down
And so
battle. Like, yeah, right. It's like I can't lie. Like some days are, it's not too business focused. Like I can see, and some months there've been times where like the business went to shit, like borderline nothing, because like I didn't do anything because I was like focused on something else, right? And that's the accountability that I just had to realize. It's the entire weight on of everything is on you, right? If you like you said, if you do really good, business does really good. But if 1 week or 1 month you're focusing more on school and you're focusing more on the podcast, you're focusing more on something else, something is going to take a hit if you like it or not. And I tell myself, people
yeah,
say like you can only manage a few things at once, right? Like you have your school, you have your business, you have your podcast, you have relationships, like whatever it may be. Maybe two or three max you can put energy into, everything else will fall. I realize when I'm really into school, and either the podcast or the business would fall. But if I'm really, really
Yeah.
into school, then the business is definitely gone. I'm barely making it, like editing videos, and that's about it. But I'm really into the podcast. I'll have the podcast, it'll be good, and the business might be good too, but school will take a hit. And that's just something I gotta learn to navigate because I know at the time, like, I don't want to stop everything. And yeah, I know that if I did one, I'd be so much better in that one particular thing. However, that's not what I want to do. I want to be able to keep things up. So I know that the weeks that I know school's not going to be too hard, I can miss a few classes. I can stay home. I can edit the videos. I can make the calls. I can reach out to the clients, talk about some service delivery stuff. I can do that, right? But it's on me, and I need to be
Yeah.
understanding of the fact. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and this is what really also drove you to start and eventually continue on with Passionate Marketing.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we've kind of covered throughout your accounting experience, your marketing experience, with Passionate and your previous experiences, so now I'm going to actually dedicate towards the faith question. So now I would actually have to ask you, how does your faith like influence your approach to work and decision making?
So short answer is in everything I do, I believe it's guided through faith, right? As time went
Yeah.
on, as I grew more, as I matured a little more, I got closer and closer to faith, right? And that's kind of God, and that's where how I found Islam itself. And I believe that when I say every single decision is backed by my religion, or most of my decisions are backed by my religion, and I try to do as much as I can. It's from everything from the small things to the big things, to who I'm doing business with,
Yes.
to who I'm not, right? And it's one of those things where you
Even
kind of
how
know,
to do business too.
right?
I'm just gonna say that
Exactly.
to yeah.
Yeah, like say it's like for me, it's like I'm trying to keep away from interest as much as possible. Like about so I know that when it comes to loans, I don't even have to look, I don't even look that way. Because I know that's like that's gonna be interest, it's haram, like I'm done. And for me, it's like, you know
Yeah.
what? Alhamdulillah. Like it's okay. If that wasn't written for me, it wasn't written for me. And believing in that whatever is meant for you will come to you is very important. And even like the Kafir and the Christians and whatever, they had that belief, but we had that belief with Allah. It's like whatever is written for you is written for you. So when I see like an opportunity. And I've seen so many like with gambling and stuff like that. When it comes to or like with like crypto coins and things like that, it's like kind of in the gray area. But even gambling itself, it's hey, like you can promote this person or you can get this girl or this guy on the podcast or this clip will go 100% viral. But it's like something that I don't believe in as a Muslim. Like I'm not gonna get like half naked chicks on my
Yeah.
so I'm not gonna get them like I don't really want to do business with them. If their service that they're in is not something that resonates with me, I'll just say no. You know, like I'm like I was like if you want help and thing is like look at my marketing page. Like I don't mind. Like, you know, like you can get some inspirations from there. You want to call and talk to me, we can do that. But like you want me to go and start like, doing business? I don't know. I don't want to do that. And that's like a very big thing I have in the back of my head every single time is remember God, because at the end of the day, it's He who provides. So you need to be understand like obey the command. So when it comes to like, hey, do you want to come to this like a casino, right? And that's like less business. It's a no. It's an easy no. My friends don't ask, and most of my friends don't even do that, right? It's just the one or two girlfriends I may have. And
Yeah.
when it comes to the ethical side of things, there'd be times even in your professional career that you be in different environments and you might feel peer pressure to do certain things, right? So you and I both know we're business students and networking. It's always in the bar, right? Regardless, there's always drinks, there's always a
Yeah.
drink in the
It is
hand.
always
It's
drinks.
just like a social thing and everyone's always drinking. So in the back of your head, you're like, oh shit. If you grew up with that's always wrong and like even me, it's like it's always wrong, so I would never do it. But the back of your head, it's like, oh shit, like it's right in front of you. But your belief needs to be so strong that that voice is so quiet you wouldn't even hear it. Like, oh, it's like I'm not gonna like,
Yeah.
entertain the idea of drinking, right? But as time goes on, you need to be like, okay, so I'm not gonna go do this because of my faith, right? But you gotta be able to still understand that how are you gonna network without going to the bar, without being able to do things. And that's like kind of like the dilemma you might fall into in the sense of like, oh, if everyone's doing it, so I have to do it, or else I'll feel behind. There's that FOMO of missing out on certain conversations or meeting certain types of people, but are they really worth it? If they're in that particular environment or if they're doing certain things, are they really worth it? And that's something I keep telling myself. It's not, right? And I keep reminding myself that the more you remember who you are and the more and the truer you stay to yourself, the better your opportunities will come into. Because
Mhm.
I've had times where I would say no to something because it's haram, and then a few days, few weeks, even a couple months, the what I really want, it comes in front of me, right? And I get really happy. It's like, wow, this is truly you know, like when it comes even when it comes to money, when it comes to a business opportunity, it comes to you and you get really happy. It's like, wow, this is what faith looks like, right? This is what trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks like. And that's what you want to do. And when you see small things happen in your life and the great result through God, you just want to, you believe in it that much more and you follow that teaching that much more. And I truly believe that that's the main reason for any success that I have in my life is through him. So it's very empowering to
Yeah.
understand that when I say no to something, there's so much more behind it than a person might see. And there's so much discipline behind it. There's so much love and respect for the religion behind it, and so much belief behind it. And that's why it's so amazing. Even you and I, we both met in the Musalla, right? So
Yeah.
it's nice to see, right? It's like the networking there.
Yeah,
And
no,
think
that's
about it.
true.
That day, like even when you just think out loud, like that day I went to go pray Salah like every other day. And I always wanted to tell myself, like, yeah, let's get on a podcast, let's talk. I never thought, like, and who would think that a couple days later, I'm in the musalla, I meet a guy, then 3 months later, he messages me saying, you help on the pod. You see what I mean? And it's that whole divine intervention. I think it's this beauty in that. And I think when you start
Yeah,
looking at
100%.
everything, like every success and or every gift is from God, you become that much more grateful for it. Right? It's like, wow,
100%.
it's like
Yes.
everything was
I
because of
couldn't
this.
agree
It's like
more.
I couldn't do this because if it wasn't for him. And you need to understand that because when you do, you'll see your life just transform that much more. Right? The blessings will come that much more often. They'll come that much more stronger. And there's beauty in that. I really do feel like that. When I have my friends tell me and like question my faith and all these things, it's the beauty that I've experienced through my religion outweighs any of your criticism, outweighs anything. And I just feel sad that you don't have the opportunity to share the exact same experience I'm sharing right now because I'm so in love with my creator and my religion that like I would wish you had that same type of love for someone.
Yeah, this also kind of gives, if we're more on the topic of religion, Jen, the more religious acts you do, the more you feel like inclined to actually do like be happy with what you're doing. And not essentially you being happy, like you wouldn't feel lost. You would if you were someone that just said, "Oh, everyone, I'm doing this because everyone else is doing," it. Or you're saying, "Oh, no, no, this is just a religion. I could probably do a better job without this." Because I know a lot of cases where unfortunately that's the case. And I kind of see when you kind of see these people, they're just lost. They kind of have no sense of direction where, and I feel like whatever what in regards to what you're saying no, do the exact opposite. Stay true to your values. Stay true to your values because you never know what opportunities will eventually come through your way. And I actually have a story behind this. It's not me personally. It's someone I know. He initially it was actually a guy working on Wall Street. He worked at Wall Street. He was making the big bucks. He saw he was in the corporate world. He's in a lot of people's dreams. Like a lot of the people's dreams will go into Wall Street and all that. And what he did was that he literally just left Wall Street. He said, "Oh, the corporate world, like there was a lot of haram and there was a lot of things that
Yeah.
he didn't really like." He said that there are a lot of people who are just going against their certain values and he just didn't like that environment. So he joins this like non-Islamic nonprofit organization, and he's making like 10 times not 10 times lower, but you know what I mean. It's not the
Yeah,
salary
significantly
like
less,
oh,
yeah.
that's a very significant amount of it's very less compared to the Wall Street job. And even if I was talking to him, he said, "No, no, this is what I was made to do. I'm so glad I left and I got this opportunity. This is what I was made to do." Well, the job he's working right now at the Islamic nonprofit organization. And yeah, it's
That's
just
beauty, right? You
when
find
you
your
kind of see
calling
these
through it.
things.
Right, yeah, 100%. You find your calling through so many different avenues of life that you never understand it. But it's the same thing of following through with it and following through religion at the end of the day. Going like, you know what, I want to go with it. And you find all like the flowers after. You get your flowers at the end.
Yeah. It's actually interesting. There was a scholar actually, he was a businessman, and one of the things he actually never did was market his products. He never necessarily marketed his products where he kind of gave people he sold things to people that they didn't need things. That he kind of had to force them to buy his products. No, what he wanted to do was make sure that when the people were buying his goods, they needed the products. They needed the products, and he had to convince them that this was kind of the best for their need. It was kind of similar. I remember hearing, I forgot. I'm gonna give the example of Jordan Belfort, but it's gonna give the example of Jordan Belfort, but it's just I remember after hearing a story where after he got out of jail or something, he
Hmm.
started selling clothes to people at Wall Street, and then he said, "Yeah, this is," and he got kind of got he didn't get back to the top, but he eventually got better state than he was in, and he essentially said like sales is really just helping people.
Exactly.
how does this rely? How does this align to faith? It's just kind of the thing that you kind of just have to stick to your values. That just really is. You have to stick to your values. So that scholar, he never really tried to market his product because that was kind of his thing. And he said, no, if you just need it, just come to me. I'll give you what you need. Jordan Belfort was just saying, listen, I just see this issue. I just see this problem. I'm just gonna do something about it right away. I don't care what it is. I'm just gonna sell clothes to people in Wall Street. I'm gonna make some money on that. So it's kind of well, I think for this entire podcast, especially from what you're talking about, we have to have this balance of okay, yeah, you stay true to your values, but you also need to see the problems and do something about it, like stand up for it and actually try to take action for whatever you want to do, right? Whether it's to learn a
100%.
skill
And I think
or to
even
get a
going with
job.
like what you said earlier about when you do business with a Muslim and how they convey like business itself is so much different. And kind of touching with sales because I'm really into that. It's
Yeah.
you never like the way when I say like I'm a Muslim, whatever, when it comes to the sales aspect of things, I'm not gonna sell someone something that they don't need or that I feel like they
Yes.
need, right? And that's backed by my religion. I'm not gonna sell a product that I don't believe in. I'm not gonna sell someone something that they don't need. Can I do it? Maybe, right? Who knows? Like the better you get at sales, the easier it is to convince someone to buy something. So would I want to convince someone? No. And why? The only reason, my faith doesn't tell me to, right? And my morals are backed by my faith. My life is backed by my faith. Everything I do is backed by it. So it's very comforting to people who I speak to. It's comforting more than anything. People I speak to, they're like, wow, like I'd love to do something with more like morals, but it's for myself because I believe, and this is a beautiful thing to kind of tie this point in, is that when you can love someone more than yourself and you can put more respect and attention to something greater than you, that is amazing because now you're like,
Yeah. a
wow, like
hundred
this is not
percent.
even for me and this dunya, like I'm doing it for the akhirah, I'm doing it for him, for God himself. That's where I'm focusing on. Everyone's trying to focus on, like, on themselves and where I'm looking up. And even tying that with like in your relationship and everything, if your partner loves God more than you, you'll have an amazing relationship. I really do believe that all these scholars, like what they say is when they have that, you know that like all these problems that most men are facing, bro, like you don't have to worry about it, right? Because Islam says not to.
Yeah.
Someone who believes in it, and you get a partner, both people, a righteous spouse, right? You don't have to worry about it, and she doesn't have to worry about you. Things like adultery, things all like who are they talking to, who are they being friendly? You don't have to deal with a lot of this.
Yes.
And I just hear my friends, and when they give me shit about like or what their partner or they're talking about their own things and advice, even if it's not partner advice, it's life advice. I'm like in my head, I'm like, my relation already tells me what to do about this, right? And that's amazing because I'm like, I've this problem you have has already been solved, and there's a reasons why certain rules are there in the Quran
Yes.
in Islam about that, and that's amazing. I'm like you guys are suffering with like maybe with a relationship or business or whatever, but it's like this is why this is bad, and this is why God tells me not to do it, so I'm just not going to do it, so I never have to worry about this problem. Easy as that. And there's so much beauty in that. So that's
Well
one of the
said.
other reasons why it makes you want to believe that much more.
Yeah, well said, right? Fortunately, like if we were people that grew up with the religion, so we were kind of able to see side from side. Especially that's kind of a big reason why like reverts are very practicing because they know how life is without it.
Exactly. They
So
kind of see like the absence of God, and when they see people with him, you're like, oh my God, like this is where it's
even
at.
even for their personal selves, they were able to see who they were without, and then when they have this sort of direction, this sort of purpose in life, like we're building for an akhirah, then it's kind of very simple at that point. So now that we kind of covered the your experience side of things, and now that we kind of covered throughout faith, so if I would like to ask you more about the grand vision of things, or what you would personally. So, what
Sorry,
impact do you
the
hope
land
to make
division? Sorry, say that again.
the grand vision, like your
Oh, the
grand
grand vision.
vision?
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
Something, yeah. So something like that you kind of like there's an issue and you really want to see that solved, or whether it could be like climate change or space. Yeah, the thing, these sort of these things sort of that. So, what impact do you hope to make through your work, both professionally and or that's something
Mhm.
that's alongside your faith, or even just yeah, any sort of problem that you want to just work towards, and if you were to be gone, you'd say, okay, I'm so happy I went through this. This
So,
you can take time to think. This is a
no, no,
very
no.
broad and question.
I don't think that when I die, I'm going to be known as the Deloitte accountant. I really doubt
Yeah,
that.
obviously,
And
yeah,
that's not something I
yeah.
want to do. And I think me saying that that's not something I want to do. It checks off something I don't need to do, so I can move on to something else. my main thing is that if I was to leave today, like who did I inspire and what type of value did I bring to people's life? Right. And that's
Yeah.
why the work that I do outside of the business, outside of the CPA, it's like say the podcast or whatever. It's amazing to have people come up and tell you like, hey, like your point or your conversation with so and so really impacted my life. Like I felt like that was a turning point. And after that, like I really got my life together. Or in that little 10-20 second clip, I learned something about myself I may have not known. Right. And that's one of the main reasons why I started a lot of the things that I do is to inspire. And I always wanted to be known as that person who was that inspiring person who was motivational in that aspect to be like, yeah, like when I talk to Nouman, like I feel good about myself. Right. That's like I want to be known as that. The value that I want to leave off in this world is people hear you and people respect you and people believed in you and say and they heard like, wow, like he had so much value to bring in just because the way he spoke. And with the work, and I see with the business, it's nice because I'm target so we target small businesses, right? And we help them
Yeah.
scale and grow. Right? That's kind of like the main pitch. So what's really nice is that you can have businesses that are struggling, but through your services, you help them. So you're helping someone, right? And yeah, they give you a fee, but their return, it's like, bro, it's like 2x, 3x, 4x. They'll throw that money blindly after the results, right? And that's nice because now you're helping someone feed their family and you're helping they believe in you,
Oh,
they respect you.
100%. Yeah.
And that same thing, it makes you feel good because it's like a service, right? You performed, you got them more clients, and they're a lot more happier. And they're like, wow, like I love this guy. They're gonna really help me in this aspect. That's one of the reasons, other reasons why I started the marketing thing is the main help I can like do to people. And I do see like down the road, like if I was to like leave the company and then like finish the CPA stuff, it would definitely be something more related to like a startup role where I found like a software that can like help people with problems I may have had growing up, right? Whether it be
Yeah.
like communication for me was a really big thing. I was always very like talk really fast or I didn't really know how to articulate my thoughts. Or even growing up as like I guess like a Muslim or whatever, like a brown in a Western community, like, things that I wish I had when I was younger. You know what I mean? Like maybe I could
100%.
help
Yeah.
someone to live, like all these things that all these problems that I had to go through, or someone went through and they talked about it, or they had something like that. That value is so much more greater. And when you leave this world and you think that, yo, that's what I left with, you can have a smile on your face, right? You help the people,
100%.
and the
Right.
people around you always said the same thing. So it's like I think there's beauty in that, and that's what I would want to kind of go with.
That's a great answer, right? A lot of people, they really say that it doesn't matter what you have done in this world, is what you have left with it. So when you leave, did people speak good about you? Did people love to have you around? It's kind of more on the so you're more thinking on the social side of things where you just hope to help people when you interacted with them or hope you to inspire with whatever you did. That's a great answer.
Appreciate
So this is the last question I really have for you, and you kind of did touch upon this like earlier, like when we started the podcast. If you were to meet yourself 5 to 10 years, so yeah, you were talking about you wanted to have opportunities for yourself that you never had growing up. Like, if there's someone that's trying to do accounting or just trying to start a business, and even the student themselves starting a business because you have done that while you were a student, what advice would you give them?
Number one and most important is do it. The first
Do
thought
it.
you had,
Yeah.
like the first thing you wrote down when you were planning your goals this year, your resolution, honestly, take the first few steps, whatever it may be, and take action. Because as soon as like there's they say entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are the people that want
Yes.
to be an
Yeah. That
entrepreneur and they
want to
just
do
talk
it.
about it versus people who actually like make the first step. And it's a lot more easier said than done. And I have sympathy for both sides, right? But from someone who's been in both sides, I now realize how important the action step is, right? And
Yes.
if someone was hearing this and they had any idea, bro, sit down. Like literally what I would do if I had an idea of a podcast or a business, the first thing I would do is sit down, YouTube videos of just people doing it, right? Or if I'm TikToking, bro, same thing. Just looking at people, look at their journey and how they did it, inspires you first, one thing, and you can actually see the process of doing it. And you realize it's really not that hard. You can probably start it. Me 5 years ago, that's a different case because I was really lost. I would say like thank you. I mentioned this earlier, bro, just do everything, right? And that's kind of what I did. And then to find my calling or find my passion per se, or find out what I was good at, dude, I was like, as soon as like COVID hit, like I remember I worked construction just for fun, like just like it was something new, something I didn't really know how to do. So I started working construction. Then I gravitated more towards the sales field. I'm like, you know what, like I'm gonna work retail here. Worked a couple co-ops and like a data analyst position. I did tax and I did accounting now, or sorry, like auditing, and now I'm doing marketing. Right? Do you see how like I'm not really spreading myself
Yeah.
thin, but I'm just gaining experience on all this like life goes on.
Yeah. You just
And
jumped on opportunities. You didn't know
exactly.
what you
As
were
soon
doing,
as,
but you just
yes,
jumped on
yes, jumping
opportunities.
opportunity is such a big thing. Bro, if someone said, "Hey, do you want to try this?" Absolutely, yes. Networking events, do you want to go here? Yes. Like, yes. Like, and there was this really nice I had this conversation interview with this one public speaking coach, and he always said, I always say yes to everything because I know where the no will lead me. Right? Do you want to go in? Do you want to go right? Do you want, do you want to go do this interview? No. That's it. Right? You don't know what's gonna
Yeah.
happen. That like life goes on. But with the yes, it's like endless. You don't know what's gonna happen, right? There's like so much more opportunity, so many more things you can do. So I always keep telling myself, just say yes to everything because you really never know where a yes can get you, right? So when it came to what was the word? Sorry, when it came to picking career options or whatever, I just like, you know what, this looks kind of cool. Let me just say yes to it, right? This job looks kind of cool. Let me just take it. Let me take the experience because at the end of the day, like I can get the experience, I can say I've done it. And the way I like to make life seem more like fun per se and kind of make more real, like a bit more realistic, is I like to look at it as a game, right? As weird as
Yeah.
that sound is, you're the player, you're the main character because that's what it is. The world goes through your perception, so you're the main character.
Yeah.
You have like all these stats that you are needed to be get filled, and you want to do all these things. Dude, maximize. It's fun. Like when I genuinely think about the things that I'd be doing, and when I look back at the things that I've done, I want to be able to know that I've smiled and I actually had fun while doing it, and it was cool. Even if it was challenging, and at the moment I'm like hating myself, I know like 2, 3 months or 2 to 3 years down the line, bro, I'm gonna laugh at it. I'm like, sick. That was actually genuinely enjoyable. I like doing that. This is kind of
Yeah.
cool. And I know where I started and how confident I was, but I know as I kept on doing and doing and doing it and the repetition, I'm that much more confident. I'm like, wow, this is genuinely amazing. Like it was like a game. It's like a character. I leveled up the character. I leveled up as a person. And the thing is, for me, I don't really see a finish line now because I see that this game is a never-ending game, and you can always keep leveling up because like, you can always be better at something, right? And if you can't be better at anything, find something new to be good at, and you keep going on from there. And when I tell younger people like, don't stress about the internship because things will line up, everything will work out at the end, but don't
Yeah.
have the outlook that you have to do a lot of things or life won't or what's the sorry, life won't continue if you don't do something. It's bro, you wake up another day, world still keeps going. Like nothing is gonna change. You just need to understand that if you have the outlook of it's a game, let me have my fun, it's so much better. And not enough people say that. And that's something I wish someone told me because when you start stressing about all these like, okay, can I get into this university or can I do this? And rightfully so, you should stress, you should work hard. But if you know you're working hard and you're doing all the other things, bro, like look at it as the game. And it's weird. Every time some people love when I say that, some people hate it, and I don't really care because I'm like, you know what? This is the fallacy of
This
the
helped
philosophy.
you,
Yeah,
so it's
exactly.
it should help
Right? I had this philosophy growing up that if I look at it as a video game, and this is just a season in my life that I have to go work about something and do this thing, and if this was a movie, what would this arc be? If I'm a big anime guy, right? So it's like, what arc is this? Like, what's
Yeah,
happening now?
obviously.
Who's the villain? Who am I? You know, I start wiring my head to or my brain to think that way. I then know that when I continue, I'm like, oh, like this is just this, like this is what I have to do now. This is just this aspect of the story, and this is how I finish it. And that's what kind of really got me going till the end, like to where I am now and to where I will be, is that constant reminder.
That's well said. Very well said. Yeah, I can agree with a lot of those points, right? Especially even on the first one, you just jump on any opportunity. You never know what it leads to. And yeah, I've always heard this multiple times where especially like these gurus, they always say, Imagine your life as a movie. You're the main character. Imagine that there's a camera around you right there." And it's actually crazy because in Islam, like that's actually what we're kind of told. Like Allah's always watching you.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, you have the angels that are recording your deeds. Yeah, especially that like, we kind of had these we kind of had these understood, but yeah, I know, I couldn't agree more with what you just said. You treat your life as it's a game. You're leveling up, and don't and just jump on any opportunities because you never know where it leads to. And eventually when you look back, you'll understand that, oh, maybe it was probably a good thing why you went through this path. So yeah, no man, thank you for asking those questions, but if you have any questions for me, just Go away.
So what made you actually start this?
Okay, so what made me start the podcast?
Yeah. So my main question always when I ask people is, what are you passionate about? So Horace, what are you passionate about?
Well, okay, well, you asked the podcast. I'll ask you. I'll answer that one later. But what made me actually start the podcast is very interesting because when I was I was in grade 11, so I was like 17 years old. I was just thinking, I gotta do something because I was just because this was COVID, so all I did was the school was online. So when after that, I was just thinking like, oh, what am I doing? So I was just thinking I gotta do something. And eventually, what happened was, I just called. I not called. I used to listen to a lot of podcasts at the time, and I was just thinking honestly, I'll just start my own. Like it's gonna be nice because I feel that I like to talk about many different topics. I like to talk about many different things. So I'll just start this. Why not? And then if here we are today.
That's amazing. And how old are you now? Are you
I'm
2000?
21.
Okay, so you 01?
I'm
No,
'04 because
04.
I just turned 2021
Oh, still going big,
a couple weeks
mashallah.
ago.
Hey
Yeah.
man, you're doing the right thing, bro. At 17 starting a podcast is crazy. Mashallah. You should
Yeah,
go.
if at the beginning it was a lot about sports because that's what I really enjoyed at the time,
So
and also just like there was a couple of movie critics in there. Yeah,
I saw
yeah,
that. I
it
saw that. I
became
did see some things of that. I went through your videos. I'm like, interesting. So there's some gaming. I think I may have seen gaming things, but I remember I saw sports and I saw some movie stuff.
yeah, that but that was like early. Now it's
Yeah.
more so this. I talk about like the world and the future. And honestly, I wanted to start this series because I have a great network of people, so I want to just go through, and I believe this knowledge and this information will just be spread to anyone. If anyone wants to looks at this podcast and says, "Oh, I know Nouman," or "Oh, I'm interested in being an accountant uh, or just starting my own marketing agency," so yeah, I want to listen to this and say, "Oh, what does this man have to say?" And
What
oh,
about
I'm
you?
Muslim.
Yeah.
Like, well, I'm
Exactly. Yeah, you
Muslim and I'm
got it.
very
Yeah.
passionate on this. Here's one right here. Here's one episode I want to listen to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and to answer the second question, what am I passionate about? So, how I like to describe myself as a jack of all trades. There isn't anything I really want to be like, oh, this is me, or this, or something where I'm just saying, oh, I'm such a big anime guy. Like, I know so much, but I'm such a big sports guy. I know everything. I'm just saying. I like to believe myself as a jack of all trades where I have knowledge in accounting. I have knowledge in any sort of field you kind of ask me to, whether it's entertainment, accounting, or even business itself. Yeah, and it kind of you kind of see this throughout my podcast because it's such a diverse range of topics. It's not just one, right? And also another thing I'm passionate about is really economic empowerment. So I like talking about small business. I like listening to ideas. I like pursuing ideas if I want to do that. I'm also big on reading and writing. So
Oh
and
yeah.
I'm
You
also
write anything?
I'm gonna actually I'm actually never told this to anyone on the pod, but I am currently writing a book.
Oh,
So
amazing.
these things, yeah. So I'm saying what am I passionate about really is if I were to narrow it down is Islam, technology, and just writing, being a jack of all trades.
Oh, that's amazing, bro. What the heck? Yeah.
I
Hey.
know I don't know if that really answers your question,
Oh,
but
that's
that's how I
amazing.
really like
No,
to
hey,
describe
bro. The
myself.
broader the better, right? It's kind of cool. It's like, cause yo, to say that, what are you like gonna do for the rest of your life is one of those questions where like, yo, I'm still trying to figure it out. And it's the
Yeah,
honesty
no,
of
when you're
listening.
older, eventually it adds on more. However, I kind of lived we kind of went through this already. I remember seeing this LinkedIn post back in the day. You know Sahil Bloom? He's kind of like those gurus type thing, but he's a very knowledgeable guy. He always says to people, he said, you never exactly know what you want to do in your life. The best thing for you to do is just to jump on opportunities. And if you enjoy doing it, then you'll understand what you really want.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah. That was a generalized statement, but there was a whole LinkedIn post. Yeah, that was a generalized statement of
Like
it.
I took notes. It's amazing.
I like keeping things simple. That's why you probably can tell throughout this podcast.
Oh, it's better that way.
Yeah. I also live by like if you can explain something simply, then you don't really know what it is.
1,000%. You got it.
Yeah. All right, yeah, no. So what if there's any other questions, then just
That's
feel
all
free to
my
take
friend,
away.
brother. No,
That's all what
thank
you
you.
had.
I appreciate the invite. I appreciate the hospitality, bro. Like I think that's amazing. I don't see you on campus too much, so inshallah we'll talk more about that
I'm
after.
on co-op term, that's why.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, cool, cool, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, like that's amazing. So you're doing all the right things. Honestly, you should be very proud of yourself, bro. Like I want to see more of these conversations. I want to see more of these things. Like maybe even some in-person stuff. Bro, I'm telling you, sky's the limit, bro. Like, don't stop yourself. Like that's even if I was to tell you one thing, it's like you said, but jumping to opportunity, bro. If you see an opportunity where you can do something in person, you can do something differently, just take it. You never know where it will go. Like just it'll be you might find so much like meaning in it and so much love and so much just enjoyment itself. So I would say definitely just jump on it, bro. You're doing the right thing already. And just say just keep doing what you're doing and double it.
Yeah, no, that another thing I would like to say, yeah, thank you, Noman, for being on this podcast. And everyone who's listening, listen to Noman's podcast. It's called the Passionate Club. I don't know, is it about marketing?
No. So
I
it's
don't,
just about self-improvement, faith, personal development.
so
It's
okay,
like that's
so
like my main key thing is personal development. We
he's
don't
trying
want
to be a
that
guru.
guy.
Okay.
No, you're right.
But he backs it up with Islamic teaching, so that's why
There it
you should
is. So
listen
we're,
to
so
it.
we're
Yeah,
better
there we
than
go.
that. So we don't have
Yeah,
to
he's
worry about all that other stuff. But no, you're right. So yeah, it's all about personal development, man. It's anything and everything related to it, and that's why I preach about it a lot, and that's kind of like my main thing.
Also, if you want to connect with Noman on LinkedIn or any socials, they'll be in the description below. And Noman, yeah, just any closing remarks. You kind of did it, but just one last thing you want to say, just to get out of your system.
For sure. One last thing is if you're watching this and you feel like you don't know where life is headed at you and you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow and you just have this anxiety, turn to God. I've done it. I'm sure Haris has done it. Find him, pray. If you need to go to like a talk, whatever it may be for you, and whatever faith looks like for you, just take the first step. I really feel like that was my like my black card like that was like really what got me to where I am today, and I wouldn't be where I am without my faith. So if you're watching this, man, like just and you're scared and you're anxious, turn towards God. Like I that's the only thing I could say. And hey, watch my podcast, I guess.
Last thing, well, from what you're saying, kind of sparked this in me. If when he means if he turning to God can be kind of vague in that sense, but one thing, well, if I were to narrow it down to one thing, I would just say really go to the local masjid, be involved in the local community, because in the masjid you'll have people that are doctors, engineers, lawyers, businessmen. You'll find people of all
You
sorts
find
of
everyone.
different
Yeah, you're
fields.
right.
Exactly. And if you really are anxiety and all that, if you really don't know what you want to do, or if you don't enjoy what you're doing right now, just go to the masjid, be involved in the community. Yeah, you'll eventually find something. Especially, I noticed that when I did a lot of community work, I was able it was just, it felt nice. It was a sort of, it felt good contentment, and I also had heard from what other people are working through, and some people where I said, "Oh, that's so sick. Maybe I want to do this too."
Yeah, man, you got it, 100%.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the end of the podcast episode. I'm Haris Vikar. If you want to hear more about any Muslim professionals that integrate their faith into their work, please let me know below and let me know what industry as well, so I can cover that as well. Noman, thank you for being on one last time.
Pleasure.
And this is the All Facts Podcast. I'm Haris Vikar, and I'm out.